Great morning, world. Welcome to the Rise Up with Dragon podcast with your host, Dragon.
Well, great morning, world.
Great morning, Dragon.
Great morning, chicken.
Hi.
So, this is your boy Dragon coming, and we are streaming live to all the Facebook channels, YouTube, and all that stuff. And as you can see, I am wearing a very special jacket. You can actually see me wearing this. Is it a jacket?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
You can see me wearing this in the banner of my Facebook page as well.
It's got a unicorn.
It's got a unicorn on it. And I'm wearing this because today's a very special day. Today is the day that, 22 years ago?
Yeah.
35 years
Why would you
ago,
ever give my age?
my chicken was born, and it was, even though it happened 35 years ago, it was a day that changed my life forever.
That's sweet.
And this jacket, this is my Prince Charming jacket. This is actually the jacket that I wore when I proposed to her back pre-pandemic in front of 11,000 or so people.
And also, the reason why he did that was because he knew I would be able to sing now.
What's funny about it is if you go back and watch the video, there was this moment where I went through all the planning of getting ready to propose to you. And I didn't think about that. And I think somebody said to me right before, just jokingly, what if she says no? And I remember I had a little bit of a panic attack. I said to myself, I didn't think that through.
But I'm so curious, if somebody is in a situation like that, right? Because I always watch these videos of people at baseball games, and
Right.
the guy proposes in front of the whole stadium, and then the girl goes,
Well, you have to remember, and we talk about this in our Rise Up with Chicken and Dragon sessions. Guys don't think things through too much,
No, but I think, I think how it should be is when somebody does
Mhm.
propose to you in that way, say yes, and then afterwards you can be like, okay, listen,
Yeah.
maybe we should just wait a little on that.
Anyway, special day. I just want to honor my chicken because she is my world, and we've got great plans. This is something that we're streaming live right now, and we see a lot of people coming in, and we say great morning to all of you. Closing the door to the studio because the cats are our cats are the most needy animals in the world. I would actually even say that they're more needy than children.
Yeah.
They just can't be without us, and they will just scream and cry if we are even 20 feet away from them. So, great morning, world. Very excited about today. Couple of things before I get started with the Rise Up, and I've got a couple of cool thoughts from my Rise Up this morning. Got up at 4:30 in the morning, just did my whole routine, and just loved the stuff that I received. But on Monday, I'm just going to encourage everybody to put this in your calendar. This is a really, really special treat to be there live for this. But I'm interviewing, Chicken and I always talk about who would I most want to have on my show, on the Rise Up with Dragon show and podcast at iTunes, Rise Up with Dragon. And, we were talking about who would it be? Would it be someone famous? Would it be Brad Pitt? Would it be Mick Jagger? And I can honestly say that the guy that I'm interviewing on Monday is one of those people that I would dream of having. By the way, you're getting some happy birthdays in the comments.
Thank you.
Yeah. His name is Donald Hoffman. And I'll put it up. I'm going to be advertising it. You can see it on my Instagram at Rise Up with Dragon. You can follow me on Clubhouse at Makes Sense. Just all the channels. Donald Hoffman wrote a book. Here it is, called The Case Against Reality. This guy is just unbelievable. He's a cognitive psychologist, and he's just one of the smartest people in the world. And he talks about stuff that most of us are afraid to talk about. in the realm of how real is reality. There's some people out there, very, very smart people, Elon Musk, one of them, that claim and contend that this thing that we call reality, which plays a big role in how we call our shots. When I talk about, the stuff that I talk about in the Rise Up with Dragon shows, it's all about processing these things that we perceive and responding to them, in a way that keeps us moving forward. Well, what if we all of a sudden realize that it's all a fantasy, it's all a simulation? Or what if we realize that we're only, due to natural selection, so that we continue to evolve, we're only being privy to a certain amount of the truth, right? Not the whole truth, just the perceived truth, for the sake of us continuing forward via natural selection. Well, that's what this guy does, and he does it backing it with science. He is just one of the most amazing men in the world, and I'm going to interview him for an hour on the 12th. So that's going to be on April 12th. If you're listening to us on the podcast, you probably already heard it. But April 12th at 5:00 p.m. Eastern, and it'll be streamed live on all the social media channels. I'm a huge fan, and I mean, this is a guy that is in the realm of the Hawkins, and he's kind of like in the realm of the new world Darwin and stuff like this. I mean, this is a guy that will be talked about forever. So make sure that you put that on your calendar. You don't want to miss it. So today's Rise Up is called False Summit. And I had a couple of thoughts before I get into it. I think you're going to love this. And for anybody that's watching this live right now, I do have my Clubhouse room open. A lot of people don't know that. That's at Make Sense in Clubhouse. And I always have a couple of people in there that are listening and watching at the same time. And then after, we can chat a little bit about the Rise Up. So if you want to jump into the Clubhouse room and interact after in real time, feel free to do so. So a couple of thoughts this morning before I get into it. One of them is, I'm just encouraging people, and I put this up on my Facebook today, Chicken, just the idea of take a break today from letting fear hold you back. Like, just imagine taking a break from letting fear hold you back today. I mean, we spend most of our life and all of our self-discovery and personal growth trying to figure out how to manage and respond to fear. But what if today we just took a break from it? We take breaks from all kinds of things. What if we took a break from letting fear hold us back and just checked out what that was like? It doesn't mean that you have to be fearless. A lot of people talk about fear and they say that you should fight fear and all that stuff. I disagree with that. I think that fear is actually not a bad thing. I think fear shows up in every success story as a part of success. So what if we looked at fear today? I don't expect everybody to completely restructure how they look at fear. You can start to play with that. But what if we just didn't let us hold ourselves back today? So anyway, another thing, I read this from, I can't say his name, but Thich Nhat Hanh. Yeah, Chicken can say it, but we read a lot of stuff about Buddhism. But anyway, one of the things that I grabbed from him and I kind of like made it my own is this concept. Nothing can survive. So when I say these things, I encourage people to write these down and take them with you today. Nothing can survive without food, right? And we know that. I know we got all these people out there that are fasting for like months, right? Like Buddha, but nothing can survive long-term without food. Happiness is the same. It's a temporary experience that must be nourished daily. So think about that. One of the things that Chicken and I notice is that, and I understand it, there's a lot of negative stuff going on out there. We're seeing people invest a lot of their time and energy on social media, and I never understand why somebody will take a negative topic, whether it's actually negative or not, because remember, this could all be just a fantasy. But whether it's politics or just, there's so many different realms of religion, and just there's a lot of negative stuff to just handpick from the world, and we just see a lot of people sharing it. And I don't get upset with those people I have empathy for those people because they're not nourishing their happiness, right? One thing, I know that there's a lot of people out there that feel that they need to stand up for something. I get that. I get that. But are you nourishing your happiness along the way, and potentially improving your life and extending your life? So then the last thing that I wrote down before I get into the Fall Summit is, no matter what happens or what anyone thinks today, my goal is first to understand. Grasp that for a second. So what that is saying is, no matter what happens today, no matter what anybody else says today, my first goal, my first priority is to understand. So what that's saying, this is a great skill set and technique to use throughout your day. What that's saying is that before I react to anything, I'm going to pause and seek to understand. I'm going to seek to understand before being understood. Chicken, do you remember what you said?
Oh, yes, we just discussed this in counseling class. Listen to understand.
Listen to understand, not to respond. So I think that a lot of the win that you desire today sits in the hands of a pause today, and the way that you react to stuff. One thing I can promise you is that some shit's going to happen today, and you're going to see it. You're going to witness it. You're going to create feelings around it. But I'm just encouraging everybody first to pause. You improve your response system a million times by just pausing first and not buying into your initial feeling and processing it. In my book, I talk about looking at things holographically. When you pause and you look at things from different angles, one of the first things that you'll acknowledge is that it typically doesn't have anything to do with you. The next thing that you'll understand is that it typically is completely out of your control, so your opinion doesn't matter. And the third thing I typically find out is that it actually is none of my business, because if I'm in the business of moving this way and something happens that says I can't, it's not my business, right? So let's talk about the Fall Summit. This is just something so cool. I heard somebody say this the other day, and I just took the red pill with it, and I want to share it with you, so that you can potentially unlock yourself from some element of your mental prison. And I see Ruby is here. Ruby, be fine. Hey, Ruby, thank you so much for having your son Jamil. And I know that he just had his birthday the other day. We love and appreciate you. That's from me and Chicken. Let me remove some of this banner.
Ruby.
Yeah, Ruby's the best. Okay, so Fall Summit. So a couple of facts. Chicken, you're going to like this. Did you know, I actually learned this from Jim Quick. Did you know that 30% of the calories that we burn as humans are expended by the 5-pound piece of meat that sits in your skull? Did you know that your brain typically burns 30% of the calories that you expend in a day? So put us into states of excitement or fear, and it becomes a legitimate workout. Think about that for a second. If you're stressed or anxious or worried or even excited, you're burning more than 30 pounds just with your brain, right? So, sorry, I have to give you a little bit of an element that's attached to that. I'm saying, sorry, I didn't just say skip the gym today and be stressed, right? But I just thought that was cool, because as I was going into my Rise Up today, and I was bringing this, observation of how much energy we spend, and there's actually a visceral reaction to it, evaluating, all of the things all of the happenings, including our goals and what I'm going to talk about today with the Fall Summit. It's pretty incredible to just become aware of the fact that we spend a lot of time thinking and overthinking things. Wouldn't you agree, right? By the way, share this with somebody. I always say, if you learn something today, give it away. That's how it's going to stay. So, and remember, we're going to have the Clubhouse room open. If anybody wants to chit chat after this, probably be about 20 minutes from now. So when I tell people, this is another thing that I observed. When I tell people how old I am throughout my life, I'm 30, I'm 40, I'm 50, I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, that's young." Have you ever heard that when you're 35 and somebody's going to say, "Oh, you're just a baby. That's so young." What I hear when people tell me that, because I have a mortality mentality, call that a good or a bad thing, but I'm aware of the fact that I don't know even if I have the 24 hours ahead of me. So what I hear when people tell me, "Oh, that's young," is I hear, "Why bother going after life today? You've got time." Isn't that interesting?
Yep.
And the reason why I'm sharing these things with you in preparation for this concept of the Fall Summit is a lot of these concepts that I'm talking about prevent us from even acknowledging and dreaming about things like what's on top of the mountain, right? I believe that the biggest battle that we have in life is not allowing ourselves to go dream and touch and experience what it's like to be in a better, uncommon state.
Yep.
So that's what Dragon's all about. I want to give you, when you listen to my podcast, when you listen to this show, I want to give you, and I wear these fun clothes and stuff, I want to give you permission during these moments to just dream big and just engage in entertaining possibilities, become possibility thinkers. So it's fascinating to look at our goals in life, whether physical, mental, or financial, and evaluate the perception of the time associated with achieving them. Think about that. When you look at a goal, in some way, shape, or form, you're going to evaluate the time associated with it. So I believe that this plays a huge role in our decision-making process as we contemplate making the decision whether or not we're going to go after them or we're not. We always evaluate time. Now, the time that we evaluate is also attached to risk, because sometimes we're worried about risking time. When we're afraid of failing, I don't think we're afraid of failing as much as we're afraid of wasting time. That's the problem with failure. I mean, failure doesn't feel good, but we're also afraid of wasting time. In fact, the even bigger potential fear than failure is success. Worried that when we get there, we're going to be overwhelmed by it, not be able to handle it, but it's still attached to about wasting time. So I read an article about a man that this was kind of what triggered the Fall Summit idea. I read an article about a man that perceived a 3-hour drive when he was a child. Remember when you were a kid and we used to drive everywhere as kids. We didn't fly as much as we did. And he remembers as a child taking a 3-hour drive, which he thought was a very long time. And then he noticed that the same drive seemed much, much shorter in subsequent trips. So as he got older and took the same trip, the same 3-hour drive, he just noticed that it became shorter and shorter and shorter. In fact, as he became an adult, taking a 3-hour drive that he's taken before just seemed shorter. So he also noticed how time would actually, so we're in the evaluation of time. He also noticed how time would slow down during events where he went through some sort of a traumatic experience, like a car crash. A lot of times I was in a terrible car crash, and I remember, the actual accident, when I got hit and I was swerving and then I went into a wall, it probably took 2.5, 3 seconds, but I remember that time really, really slowed down. Chicken, I don't know if you've ever had an experience like that, but whenever we go through some sort of traumatic experience, time slows down. So in the evaluation of time, right? So this brought to light the idea that time appears to move slower. Remember, when we're looking at this idea of setting a goal and evaluating time, it's important how we look at time. That's why I'm sharing this with you. But time appears to move slower the more we pay attention to the newness of things. So on that first 3-hour drive, that first excursion, that first climb of a mountain, you're noticing things because it's all new. So time has a tendency. So one of the thoughts that I want to drop on you right now is that when you're looking at going to a place you've never been, the evaluation of how long it'll take it'll take too much time because you've never done it before. That's all I'm trying to accomplish. So the newness of things is something that extends time. And then also another thing that gives the perception that time is it's going to take a lot of time is when there's some sort of fear attached to it, right? That's the trauma. That's like the car crash, right? So I feel this is important as we contemplate going after things much more the first time we do them, because it's unknown and it's scary, as we look at the potential risk of wasting time. So here's the point. If you're looking at doing something right now, anybody's looking at doing something, you're going after something and it's new and you've never had it before, chances are your evaluation of how much time it will take is that it's going to take a lot of time because it's new. So I just want to bring that to your awareness. I'm sitting here now in a polished state where I've got the money, I've got the girl, I've got a lot of things that I remember way back when this was foreign and new to me, right? This life that I live right now. The concept of being a dragon is, I looked at dragons like most people as mythical creatures, meaning things that people talked about, but nobody really believed they existed, right? So that's what a dragon is to me. So now that I'm here, I know something different. If I went through it again from then till now, it would go a lot faster because I look at it differently. That's the important thing. So at the potential risk of wasting time and things like failure and the potential of being overwhelmed and not being able to handle it. So those are the things that give the perception of it taking a lot of time, and we don't want to waste time. If something looks like it's going to take a lot of time, we might take a step back from it, which is silly because the things that don't take a lot of time don't move you forward. Isn't that interesting? So this led to the observation and idea of what is called a false summit. So I looked it up, and I'll tell you where I found out about it, but in mountaineering, they refer to it as a false peak or a false summit. It's a peak, of a mountain that appears to be the pinnacle of the mountain, but upon reaching it, and just imagine going up that mountain, trudging up that mountain all day, upon reaching what you perceived was the peak, it turns out to be just something that leads to the actual summit. You couldn't see it, right? You perceived that you saw the peak. So false peaks can have a significant, this is what mountaineers say. They say false peaks can have a significant effect on climbers' psychological states by inducing feelings of dashed hopes and even failure. How's that any different than what I'm talking about, right? How's it different to look at the goal that you're going after as a mountain you've never climbed, and also this kind of knowledge that there might be a false peak? Right? That you can't reach it, or maybe even it is not when you're evaluating time, you worry that you'll waste time by getting somewhere and it not even being as fulfilling or where it is that you thought you wanted to go. So I think we all both fear the false summit in that we fear the unknown, right? The risk, that's the unknown and the risk, and fear the wasting of time of that false summit idea. So as well as the fact that we put too much emphasis on reaching destinations rather than recognizing that life is a continuous journey. When I was looking at that idea in the beginning, and I was talking about nothing can survive without food, happiness is the same, it's a temporary experience that must be nourished. What I'm entertaining right now is that we have a tendency of looking at the destination we're trying to achieve and being worried that the journey will take too much time. So what I'm saying right now is life is a journey. You're never actually going to arrive at the destination that you'll say, I'm done, right? So a false peak is something that you can either perceive and worry about, or you can embrace the fact that there is no peak. You'll never get to the mountaintop. Because what I can tell you is that I'm on a mountaintop right now in relation to most people, and I feel like I'm at base camp right now, right? So that's another concept that I'll bring up. So it's not until you reach the summit of one mountain that you can see the summit of the next. So this is called a peak to peak consciousness, right? And what that means is that you can't see the mountain behind the mountain. You can't see the goal or the next step until you reach the first one. So what is valuable about this is what I'm telling you, what I'm sharing with you is you might be holding yourself back from even starting a journey. I've never seen anybody fail at achieving their goals and success. I see people quit and I see people never start. I've never seen people go after something with no quit in them and fail. So that's what I'm talking about right now is you and your analytical mind that was programmed by your programmers, right, is evaluating things with yesterday's program and information and saying that's going to take too much time. I can't do that. I might fail. I might get overwhelmed. But what I'm saying is A, you have no idea because you've never done it before. And B, that's the best part. That's the best part. The best part of achieving your goals is not when you get to the mountaintop. It's when you look back and evaluate what you did to get there, right? And then the next thing you see is the next mountaintop. And you realize you haven't achieved anything but a step towards something else. As human beings, we can never, ever be satisfied with just stopping. We're always going to be looking towards something else. So we call that peak to peak. So I like the 3-hour drive that I've never been on before. In fact, Chicken and I, we don't do date nights. We do something called explore nights.
It sounds sexy.
It sounds sexy, but what we mean is we like to go out not knowing where we're going to go. And one of the values that's coming to light right now is that it's a journey and it's an adventure. We like to create memories and adventures. So we find that our most special moments happen when we don't plan it and we go into this new spot. Because if we go to our same restaurant and we go to the same movie or go to the same concert all the time, eventually it's going to get boring, right? So I like the 3-hour drive that takes too long because I get to see the scenery and the newness of seeing things. I've also come to like the challenge and fear associated with taking risks and potentially wasting time. What a stupid thing that I just said, right? Or is it? I like the idea of taking risks and potentially wasting time, as within that fear and within that potential risk lies the growth that I seek. So you start to learn when you get to the mountaintop and you evaluate what you did to get there, you start to learn some things that you didn't know before when you were evaluating it with your analytical mind programmed by yesterday, running yesterday's program, right? You start to learn some things you didn't know, like these things that you're afraid of, or like wasting time, risk, fear, all that stuff. Those are actually things that you feel when you're looking at the actual way towards your goals. Right? So now once you reach one mountain peak, another mountain peak is represented by a new strategy. A new strategy is not to move away from fear, not to move away from the fear that you're going to waste time and the evaluation of that things take too much time. You start to recognize why you're seeing those things. So what it's about is you're starting to create a new level of consciousness. No, I'm not high right now. Right? Chicken could tell you, I'm just high on life, right? It's easy to get high on alcohol and drugs, but it's much harder to get high on life. It takes a lot of work. That's why I nourish that every morning with my Rise Up. So it's not in playing it safe and not climbing the mountain, right? Not doing it, for the fear of the false summit that we grow through life, right? It's in the risk. It's in facing fear and unknown and embracing the risk where growth takes place. I think the best way of looking at life is this concept of peak to peak. When I look at that peak, I'm not worried about it being a false summit. I actually already know that it's a false summit because I know that all I will achieve when I get there is the ability to see something else. And the struggle and the fear and the journey that I took will empower me and prepare me for that next summit. See, I can't get to the next summit until I get to the first because I needed to adopt the skills and strategies and strengths along the way and lessons to be able to climb the second one. So the first one is for the second one. So looking at each challenge as a journey and as a necessary step towards another. That's the peak to peak. Focusing less on the destination as an endpoint, but a step towards the next. I think most people refrain from the exciting unknown journey in life and choose to commute through life. Listen to this, Chickie.
I love it.
She just said, I love it, but she didn't hear it. I'm going to say it again.
I listened to react.
Listen, I think that most you're reading you're reciting something I said 12 minutes ago. I love this chicken. I think most people refrain from the exciting unknown journey of life and choose to commute through life. And what I mean by commute is take the same route every day.
Do you know what just went through my mind?
What?
I'm so sorry. Like I've been listening.
Is this a dark passenger?
Yeah, I've been listening so actively to people for like 2 weeks now.
Right.
That I'm literally exhausted, and all I could think was, "Oh my god, I have class in 30 minutes."
Yeah, she's already moving into the rest of her day. Yeah, and big props to my chicken who's starting her clinical hours and taking care of patients now.
3,000 clinical
Unbelievable,
hours,
unbelievable.
maybe.
So are you commuting through your day today? Are you just going with the flow? Are you caught up in a pattern that was created by your program that was programmed yesterday, right? Or are you taking some risks today? One risk you could take is not to let fear hold you back. That's a new path. That's an unknown. So commute through life taking the same road all the time, playing it safe for fear of the false summit. I wanted life to last longer and be more interesting, so I've chosen to look at it as a journey. Think about that. Remember in the evaluation of time, if we know that the journey and the newness takes more time, anybody interested in living longer? Right? Because I can tell you something, there's a different way of looking at life. It goes like this. Especially if you embrace the mortality mentality and the idea that you don't know how long you got, right? I want to live longer. I want to embrace it all. I want to enjoy the journey. So I'm going to take the path that takes longer, right? Which is a totally different way of going after our goals. Doesn't mean you won't get your goals faster. It just means you'll get the steps faster towards the others. And then I realized there are no false summits, right? There's only steps along the way in the journey. What do you think, chicken?
I agree.
You like?
I like it.
All right, so that's my Rise Up today. As a quick reminder, these get loaded into my podcast, Rise Up with Dragon, and that is on iTunes. And you can follow me on Instagram at Rise Up with Dragon. Don't forget about Donald Hoffman, 5 p.m. on Monday. Blow your mind. Wear a helmet for that. And put tinfoil on the walls so you don't spontaneously combust. This is a genius that one day people will read about in textbooks, and you guys are going to be able to hear them live. I'm going to do the best that I can. I will not be wearing this jacket and hat for that interview. I'll probably just comb my hair that day. But love and appreciate you. And remember, if you learned something today, give it away. That's how it's going to stay. Please go to my podcast, subscribe for it, leave me a rating, leave me a review. It really helps me look cool in front of people that need me to look cool, right? So that they feel more comfortable talking to me. And remember, all of our episodes are sponsored by Karma Mind.
A guided meditation podcast rooted in Buddha's beautiful teachings.
A guided meditation podcast rooted in Buddha's beautiful teachings. Guys, you listen to Karma Mind, and everything gets better. You bypass your analytical mind. I love and appreciate you all. We're going to go into Clubhouse, see if anybody has any questions. Have a wonderful day. Here's the outro.